The kitchen light hummed its low-frequency buzz at 11:47 p.m., same as it had for 6 years. Maya stood at the counter folding dish towels, white ones that used to be cream, worn soft from weekly washing. Her husband David was upstairs in the shower. She could hear the pipes groaning through the walls, a sound so familiar it had become part of the architecture of their life together. On the refrigerator door, beneath a magnet shaped like a lighthouse, hung a photo from their wedding, her head on his shoulder, his hand in her hair, both of them laughing at something her friend Rachel had said just before the camera clicked. Rachel, who had texted that morning, "Coffee tomorrow? I miss your face." The towel Maya was folding had a corner that wouldn't lie flat. She pressed it down. It sprang back up. She pressed again. This isn't fiction. This is how love disappears, one small truth at a time. 3 months earlier, everything had felt unremarkable in the way that safety feels unremarkable. Maya taught second grade at Lincoln Elementary. David worked in software development for a company whose name she could never quite remember, something with solutions in it. They'd been married 8 years. No children yet, though they'd stopped saying yet out loud. Their house was a modest 2-bedroom in a neighborhood where people waved from driveways and knew each other's dogs' names. Rachel had been Maya's closest friend since college. She was the one who'd held Maya's hand through her mother's funeral, the one who'd helped them move into this house, carrying boxes in July heat without complaint. She lived 20 minutes away in a condo that always smelled like vanilla candles and ambition. She was single, perpetually dating, perpetually disappointed. "You're lucky," she'd say to Maya over wine. "You found someone good." On Thursdays, Maya and Rachel had dinner together while David worked late. They'd rotate restaurants, try new places, rate them on napkins they'd throw away after. Rachel was beautiful in that effortless way some women are. Dark hair that fell just right, a smile that made strangers trust her immediately. Men approached her often. She'd laugh them off, then turn to Maya and say, "Why are all the good ones taken?" Maya never questioned the rhythm of their friendship. Why would she? Rachel had been there when David proposed, had cried at their wedding, had shown up the night Maya's father was hospitalized with ingredients for soup. When you know someone that long, you stop watching for fault lines. You assume the foundation is solid. By the time the leaves changed that year, something had shifted without announcement. David started working later. Not every night, but enough that Maya found herself eating dinner alone more often, the second placemat clean and folded back in the drawer. He'd come home around 10, sometimes 11, smelling like coffee and exhaustion. He'd kiss her forehead, always the forehead, never the mouth anymore, and say something about a project deadline, a client emergency, a meeting that ran long. She believed him because belief was easier than doubt. Rachel, meanwhile, had started canceling their Thursday dinners. "Work's crazy," she'd text, or "not feeling great tonight." Once, "Rain check, I'm so sorry." The apologies came with heart emojis, always hearts, as if affection could substitute for presence. Maya would eat alone those nights too, scrolling through her phone, double-tapping photos of other people's happiness. She didn't connect the two absences. Why would she? The first fracture appeared on a Tuesday in October. Maya had forgotten her lunch and came home during her planning period, a rare pocket of freedom in the teaching day. The house was supposed to be empty, but David's car sat in the driveway, silver and familiar, though he should have been downtown in a meeting he'd mentioned that morning over toast. She stood on the front walk for a moment, keys in hand, listening. No sound from inside. Maybe he'd come home sick. Maybe the meeting had been canceled. She unlocked the door quietly, some instinct telling her not to call out. The living room was undisturbed, couch cushions arranged the way she'd left them, yesterday's newspaper still on the coffee table. But there was something, a scent, perfume, not hers, something warmer, heavier, vanilla, and amber. Her heartbeat stumbled. She climbed the stairs, each step deliberate, her hand steady on the railing. The bedroom door was closed. She could hear voices, low, indistinct, muffled by the door and distance. David's laugh, then another laugh, lighter, familiar in a way that made her stomach turn before she understood why. Maya stood outside her own bedroom door, hand hovering over the knob, and felt the future split in 2 directions. In one, she turned the knob. In the other, she walked back downstairs, got in her car, and returned to school as if this moment had never happened. As if she could unknow what her body already knew. She turned the knob. The room held its breath. David was standing by the window, phone in hand, fully dressed. Alone. He startled when he saw her, a flinch so small she might have missed it if she hadn't been watching so carefully. Maya, hey, what are you? I forgot my lunch. Her voice sounded normal, which felt like a betrayal of itself. Are you okay? You're home. Yeah, He set his phone face down on the dresser. That gesture, that small rotation of the wrist. She would remember it later. Meeting got pushed. I had some calls to make, easier to do from here. She looked past him at the bed. It was made. She'd left it unmade that morning, she was certain. The comforter was pulled tight, pillows arranged with a precision that looked like panic. I should get back, she said. Already? Planning period. You know. He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. See you tonight? Yeah, tonight. She went downstairs, walked to her car, drove back to school. She taught fractions to 7-year-olds. She smiled at parents during pickup. She graded spelling tests with a red pen, circling mistakes, writing good effort in the margins. She did not think about the perfume. She did not think about the remade bed. She did not think about why David's meeting had been pushed, but he hadn't texted her to say he'd be home. She didn't think about it until she did. That night, David was tender in the way people are when guilt makes them generous. He made dinner, pasta with the sauce she liked, the one from the farmer's market. He poured her wine. He asked about her day. He touched her hand across the table. I love you, he said. I love you too, she said, and meant it, and wondered why it hurt. Some weeks later, the patterns became impossible to ignore. David's phone, which used to sit on the coffee table face up, now lived in his pocket. When it buzzed, he'd glance at it quickly, then set it down again without explanation. Passwords had changed. His laptop, once left open on the kitchen counter, now snapped shut when she entered the room. These weren't accusations, they were observations, small shifts in the landscape of their life together. Rachel texted less. When they did make plans, she'd arrive looking distracted, checking her phone throughout dinner, apologizing with that same heart emoji. Once, Maya asked if everything was okay. Rachel smiled too quickly. Of course, just work stress, you know how it is. Maya didn't know. She didn't know anything anymore. She started noticing other things. Receipts in David's car for restaurants they'd never been to together. A credit card charge for flowers she'd never received. The way he showered immediately when he got home, even on days that weren't hot, even when he'd only been at the office. The way he said, I love you, more often now, as if repetition could make it true again. There was a coffee mug that appeared in their kitchen one morning, white ceramic with a small chip on the rim. Not theirs. Maya stared at it in the dish rack, this foreign object that had somehow gained access to their home. When she asked David about it, he shrugged. Must be from the set. Maybe it was in the back of the cabinet? It wasn't. She knew every mug they owned. She'd registered for them, chosen them, washed them for 8 years. The mug sat in the cabinet for 3 days. On the 4th day, Maya threw it away, wrapped in newspaper, buried at the bottom of the trash can. By the time the leaves had fallen completely, Maya had become someone she didn't recognize. Someone who checked pockets before doing laundry, who scrolled through phone bills looking for repeated numbers, who stayed up after David fell asleep, watching him for evidence of dreams that didn't include her. She found things, small things, that built into an architecture of betrayal. A receipt from a hotel downtown, dated on a night he'd said he was working late. A card from a jewelry store, not for her birthday, not for their anniversary. A text notification that appeared on his locked screen one morning while he was in the shower. Miss you already. She didn't confront him, not yet, because once she said it out loud, it would be real. And reality felt like something she could postpone, something she could hold at arm's length if she just kept pretending not to notice. Rachel called one evening in November, voice bright with forced cheer. Dinner Thursday? I feel like we haven't really talked in forever. They met at the Italian place they'd been going to for years, the one with the red vinyl booths and the server who knew their orders. Rachel looked beautiful. She always looked beautiful. In a navy sweater that Maya had never seen before. Something about it nagged at Maya's memory, but she couldn't place it. They ordered wine. They talked about work, about the coming holidays, about Rachel's most recent dating disaster. Normal things. Surface things. Rachel laughed too loud. Maya noticed lipstick on Rachel's wine glass, a deep burgundy shade, bold, not her usual color. "You look different," Maya said. "Different how?" "I don't know. Happy, maybe?" Rachel's smile faltered for just a moment. Yeah, things have been good." "That's great." Maya heard her own voice from a distance. "I'm glad." "And you? How's David?" The question landed wrong, too carefully casual, like someone stepping around broken glass in bare feet. "He's good. Busy." "Busy. Right." Rachel looked at her wine. "Maya, She stopped, started again. "You deserve someone loyal. You know that, right? Someone who sees you, who chooses you." The words hung in the air between them like smoke. "Why are you telling me this?" Maya asked. I want you to be happy. You're my best friend. I want you to be with someone who deserves you." Maya wanted to reach across the table. She wanted to grab Rachel's hand and demand the truth. Instead, she smiled. "I am happy." It was the kindest lie she'd ever told. They hugged goodbye in the parking lot. Rachel held on a little too long. "Love you," she said. "Love you too." Maya sat in her car for 10 minutes after Rachel drove away, hands on the steering wheel, not moving. The burgundy lipstick had left a faint mark on Rachel's wine glass, and Maya couldn't stop thinking about it. That specific shade, that careful application, like war paint, like armor, like guilt dressed as confidence. 2 weeks later, on a cold evening in late November, Maya came home early from a staff meeting that had been canceled. She pulled into the driveway at 6:15 p.m., earlier than David expected. His car was there, and beside it, parked at an angle, as if in a hurry, Rachel's white Honda. Maya turned off her engine. She sat very still. The front windows glowed warm yellow. She could see shapes moving inside, shadows against the curtains. Her heart didn't race. Her hands didn't shake. She felt very calm, very clear, like someone watching a storm from underwater. She got out of the car, she unlocked the front door with her key to her house, and stepped inside. They were in the living room, not touching, not kissing, just standing there, facing each other, close enough that the space between them felt deliberate. David saw her first. His face went white, then red, then something beyond color entirely. Rachel turned. She was wearing the navy sweater, and beneath it Maya now saw a shirt that belonged to David, his old college t-shirt, the one he'd worn to bed for years, the one that had been missing from the laundry for months. No one spoke. Maya set her purse down on the table beside the door. The sound was very loud. "I should go," Rachel said, her voice barely a whisper. "Don't," Maya said. Not angry, just factual. "Stay. Tell me how long." Rachel looked at David. David looked at the floor. "How long?" Maya asked again. 6 months, David said. The number had weight, substance. 6 months was 2 seasons. 6 months was her birthday, their anniversary, 100 dinners she'd eaten alone. 6 months was long enough to be a choice. "In our house?" Maya asked. He nodded. She turned to Rachel. "You came to dinner. You sat across from me. You gave me advice about relationships." "Maya, Don't." Maya's voice was still calm, still measured, which made it worse somehow. "Don't apologize. I don't want your apology." "What do you want?" Rachel's eyes were wet, mascara already starting to smudge. It was the first time Maya had ever seen her cry. "I want you to leave. I want you to leave and never speak to me again. I want you to live with this. Can you do that?" Rachel grabbed her coat, her purse. She walked to the door, stopped, turned back once as if to speak. Maya stared at her until she left. The door clicked shut. The room settled into new silence. David and Maya stood there, still not moving, the length of the living room between them. "I didn't mean for..." "Stop." "Maya, did you love her?" He hesitated. That hesitation told her everything. "Do you love me?" "Yes. God, yes. Maya, I never stopped." "You deserve someone loyal," she said quietly. That's what she told me. "Rachel, your girlfriend, my best friend. She said I deserve someone loyal." Maya laughed, a sound like breaking. "And I do! But you're not him." She walked past David to the stairs. She climbed them slowly, holding the railing, her legs steady even though the world was tilting. At the top, she went into the bedroom, their bedroom, and locked the door behind her. She lay down on the bed, on her side, facing the window. Outside, it had started to rain. Light rain, November rain, cold and persistent. She could hear David downstairs pacing. She could hear him say her name once, twice. She didn't answer. She stayed there until she heard his car start, heard him drive away. Then she cried. The days that followed were identical and different. David moved his things out over the course of a week, coming during the day, while she was at work. She'd come home to find drawers emptied, closets half vacant, spaces where his things had been. He left most of the furniture. He didn't take the wedding photos. Those stayed on the refrigerator, beneath the lighthouse magnet, gathering dust. They spoke through lawyers. The divorce was uncontested. They'd only been married 8 years, had no children, kept their finances mostly separate. It should have been simple. It wasn't simple. Nothing about love ending is ever simple. Maya stopped going to the Italian restaurant. She changed her phone number. She quit social media because every memory that surfaced was now poisoned by context. That photo from their wedding, Rachel had been there, snapping pictures, laughing. That vacation to the coast, Rachel had suggested it. That inside joke about the lighthouse magnet, Rachel had given it to them. Every good memory now had Rachel's fingerprints on it. Friends called, wanting to know what happened. Maya told them it didn't work out. That was true enough. It didn't work out because he'd been sleeping with her best friend for half a year. It didn't work out because trust, once broken completely, doesn't grow back. It didn't work out because Maya had built her life on the belief that the people closest to her were incapable of this specific cruelty. She'd been wrong. In December, Maya saw them together at the grocery store. She'd turned down the cereal aisle, and there they were. David pushing a cart, Rachel walking beside him, their shoulders touching. They didn't see her. Maya stood very still, watching them examine boxes of granola like it mattered, like they were building a life together from ordinary moments. Rachel was laughing. David was smiling. They looked happy. Maya walked away before they noticed her. She left her half-full cart in the produce section. She sat in her car and gripped the steering wheel and felt something that wasn't quite anger and wasn't quite sadness. It was recognition. The understanding that they got their happiness by taking hers, that their beginning was her ending, that love doesn't disappear, it just moves, finding new people to inhabit. By January, the divorce was final. Maya signed papers at a desk in a fluorescent-lit office and officially became someone whose marriage hadn't lasted a decade. The lawyer shook her hand. She drove home. She stood in the kitchen under that buzzing light and felt nothing. The house was quiet in new ways. One car in the driveway, one toothbrush in the bathroom, one coffee cup in the morning. She thought about moving, starting fresh somewhere else, but she was tired. So tired. And this house, for all its ghosts, was still hers. Rachel tried to reach out once, months later. An email that began, "I know you don't want to hear from me, but..." Maya deleted it without reading further. Some apologies arrived too late. Some betrayals are too complete. She heard through mutual acquaintances that David and Rachel were living together now, in a condo across town. Maya wondered if Rachel still lit those vanilla candles, if David still showered as soon as he got home, washing away evidence of his day, if they talked about her, if they felt guilt, if guilt had a weight that made their happiness heavier. She didn't know. She didn't want to know. Time moved forward the way it does when you stop fighting it. Maya taught her students long division. She painted her bedroom a different color. She went to therapy on Tuesdays. She learned to cook for one. She started saying yes to invitations she used to decline. She made new friends, slowly, carefully, with boundaries built from scar tissue. She dated eventually. A man named Eric, who worked at the library, who laughed easily and didn't ask too many questions about her past. It didn't last. She dated again. A woman named Sophie who taught yoga and made her feel seen in ways that had nothing to do with romance. That didn't last either. She stopped looking for someone to fill the space David and Rachel had left. That space, she realized, was supposed to be empty. It was negative space, the outline of a lesson about who she could trust and what she was willing to forgive. Years passed, 3, then 4. The ache faded from sharp to dull to occasional. She could think about them now without feeling her chest tighten, could hear David's name without flinching, could see vanilla candles in the store without the rush of memory that used to follow. One afternoon in late autumn, 4 years and some months after the November evening that split her life in two, before and after, Maya was leaving the farmer's market with vegetables for the week when she saw Rachel's mother. Mrs. Patterson, who'd known Maya since college, who'd invited her to Thanksgivings and summer barbecues, who'd cried at Maya's wedding almost as much as her own mother had. Mrs. Patterson saw her too, hesitated, then approached. Maya, hi. Mrs. Patterson. They stood there, two people connected by someone neither wanted to name. How have you been? Mrs. Patterson asked, and the question sounded genuine. I've been okay. Better. I'm glad. She touched Maya's arm lightly. I want you to know, what happened wasn't right. The way it happened. I told Rachel that, multiple times. Maya felt something loosen in her chest. Thank you. She asks about you sometimes, if I've seen you, how you're doing. What do you tell her? That you're doing well, that you're kind, that some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. Maya smiled, surprising herself. That's probably the right answer. For what it's worth, Mrs. Patterson said quietly, I think she knows what she lost. Not just you, but who she was before. They said goodbye. Maya walked to her car. She drove home as the sun set orange and gold through the trees, thinking about Rachel at 19, at 25, at 30. The girl who'd been her roommate, her maid of honor, her person. The woman who'd stood in Maya's living room and shattered everything because want had been louder than loyalty. She wondered if Rachel was happy, really happy, or if happiness built on betrayal always had cracks running through it. Maya would never know, and that was okay. She pulled into her driveway, her house, smaller now, less filled with ghosts. Inside, she put away groceries. She made tea. She sat at the kitchen table and opened a book she'd been meaning to read. The light was good. The house was quiet. Peace hadn't arrived like a revelation. It had come slowly, disguised as routine, as one day and then another, as the gradual understanding that she could survive this. That she had survived this. The scar was still there, would always be there. But scar tissue is tougher than regular skin. It had made her more careful, yes, but also more honest. About what she would tolerate, about what she deserved, about the difference between loneliness and solitude. Some nights, she still thought about that November evening. The rain, the silence, the way Rachel's eyes had looked as she left. Guilt and relief and something like grief all at once. How David's voice had sounded when he said 6 months, giving weight to time she'd lived through unknowing. But mostly she thought about what came after, how she'd rebuilt herself, how trust, once lost, had to be earned back from yourself first before you could offer it to anyone else. She'd learned that betrayal doesn't have to define you, that people you love can hurt you in ways you never imagined, that forgiveness isn't always possible and closure doesn't always come. She'd learned that survival isn't the same as healing, but it's where healing starts. The tea had gone cold. Maya poured it out, rinsed the cup, set it in the dish rack. Tomorrow she'd teach fractions. Tomorrow she'd grade papers. Tomorrow she'd live her ordinary, reconstructed life. And that, the ordinary, the reconstructed, the quiet persistence of a life that continued after everything broke, that was enough. She turned off the kitchen light. The buzzing stopped. In the sudden silence, she could hear the wind outside, moving through branches, steady and sure, the sound of one season becoming another, retry,